work on Shabbat. You have to make sure responsibility. Your animal should rest on Shabbat, right? You have to rest on Shabbat. The animals rest on Shabbat, right, Charles? Yeah. How many animals? You got a lot of animals. They're not working in the field on Shabbat, right? And but there's another thing they can't carry. Same way you can't carry from private to public, they can't carry from private to public, right? So that's what a lot of the Gemara is focused on. And you also can't do things that make it look. We're on 53A. We're on 50. You can't do things in the art scroll. It's 53A3. Okay, you can't do things that you can't do things that make it look like you're taking your animal out to travel on outside the boundaries of Shabbat, right? So you can't place a saddlecloth on the animal on Shabbat with the intention of taking it out to the public property. But the Gemara said you could place a saddlecloth on the animal if you want to bring it into the courtyard. Then the Gemara discussed about a trasco. A trasco is like if you want to put something around the neck of the animal to make it easy for the animal to eat. So it shouldn't have to bend down, David. How do you like that? Very comfort. User friendly, put some sort of basket around its mouth, on its neck, and then that's like hanging like a food basket the animal should eat. So the question is it appropriate on Shabbat? You're not supposed to busy yourself with things that are not really necessary. And the question was, is that considered, am I allowed to go ahead and put that basket around the neck of the animal for that purpose, just to make it comfortable, easier for the animal, so it won't have to bend down to the ground? The animal can bend down, can live without that feeding basket. But with that being said, it's more comfortable. It's a more comfort for the animal. And that we said was the machloket in the Gemara earlier, whether you could go ahead and place that feeding basket around the neck of the animal. Is that called doing effort on Shabbat that's not really necessary? We shouldn't get busy with that type of thing. So with that being said, that's the background that the Gemara opens up Meitive, 51A3. Okay? Meitive. Good morning, Adam. The Gemara is going to bring a question from this following Breita on the opinions of Shmuel and Rabbi Yochanan that say you cannot put this feeding basket on the animal. That's what the Gemara is going to say. Meitive. Lo Yitzei. We welcome Mark. Mark, welcome back.
Thank you, Rabbi. Nice to be back.
And good morning, Asaf. Meitive. Lo Yitzei, you have it, Charles? 53A3. 53A3 on the right. Mark, we're discussing on Shabbat, are you allowed to go ahead and put this basket of food, hang it around the neck of the animal, and the animal to go into, and is that allowed on Shabbat to do that? And the animal will stay in the courtyard, it's not going to go out to public property. Is that considered excessive effort on Shabbat that you should not be doing or not?
Excessive what?
Excessive effort. That you're busying yourself for something. It says there's a halacha also on Shabbat. I wonder if it's also connected on Shabbat and Yom Tov. I wonder if it's connected to this also halacha. I can't feed animals that are, let's say, if I want to go to the ocean on Shabbat or Yom Tov, or let's say on Yom Tov. If I want to go on Yom Tov and carry and feed fish on Yom Tov that belong to the world.
Right.
It doesn't have owners. You're not allowed to do that on Yom Tov. You can't do that on Yom Tov. I mean, you can't do it on Shabbat either. You can't get busy. It's not your responsibility. You don't get busy. Might be also for that. You don't get busy with that. I can feed your fish. You need me to feed your fish? I can feed it. Or you feed your animals. But I can't feed animals that are hefker. They're just out in the wild.
Public, right.
But, so we don't do that. So that's, certain types of effort that we don't get ourselves busy with. So the question is this considered, a sufficient reason for me to make it a little bit more comfortable, easier for the animal by
The
feeding?
animal eats from this thing hanging from its neck?
Well, eat from it, right? It's different, but it doesn't really need me to do it. It could do without it. It's not a baby. It's not like a baby animal that has real difficulty. Um, you know,
Right.
it's not a baby like a baby needs a baby bottle. You know what I'm saying? A baby animal that needs it. It's just the Gemara is that they're talking about an animal that's a gadol, that's a mature animal, just makes it easy for the animal. So and the Gemara brought a dispute about that before, and now the Gemara is going to question one of those opinions. Meitive, lo yitze hasus b'znav shual. The horse cannot go out with a foxtail. They would hang a foxtail. Foxtails, right? Are popular even today, right? They would hang a foxtail between the eyes of the. Obviously, there was something about the fox that they felt would be helpful for preventing ayin hara, preventing an evil eye. So you can't go ahead and the horse cannot go out to public property with this fox tail between its eyes to protect from ayin hara, because this is not a clothing, and it's not jewelry, and therefore this is considered a load. This is considered. It doesn't make the animal look beautiful. This foxtail. It's not like a nice piece of gold or silver that might, whatever common type of jewelry ornament that they would put around the animal. So therefore, you cannot go out with it in public property. V'lo b'zahurit, and not some sort of red strap that they would hang between its eyes for beautification purposes, because cannot. Because the second case is that this is not the normal way of adorning the animal with this red type of strap. And therefore it's not considered jewelry. It's not considered beautification. And we need at least if it falls into the category, David, of clothing for the animal. Now clothing means it brings warmth to the animal. The animal could go out with on Shabbat. That's not called carrying. If it's making the animal look very nice, dressing up the animal, or I'm saying or making it pretty, it's also fine if that's the normal way. If it's not the normal way, that doesn't fit into any of those two categories. It can't go out on Shabbat with that, because then it's a load. Charlie, it's considered the animal is carrying something. Lo yitzi hazav b'kishelo. Azav. Everyone, azav is a man having a certain type of discharge, not the normal type of discharge that a person has when he has relation with his wife, but it's a certain other type of discharge where the Torah says that discharge also makes a person tameh. But the Torah says if he has two of those discharges in the same day or 2 consecutive days, he becomes tameh for 7 days. It's a sign of sickness, some sort of sickness that the person has. That's how Sefer Chinuch talks about it. But whatever, and if he has 3 discharges within 1 day or 3 consecutive days, then he has to bring a korban. And he has to count. Yeah, he has to count. Now,
this Zav mentioned earlier in this Gemara at the beginning with the human infection.
it could be we had Zav early in the tractate, correct? But now right here, we have to remember. You have to remind me where we had it. You know, what I'm saying we definitely had it.
They're saying it's in 11 and 12.
Okay, 11 and 12. You're going back 40 page.
That's
40.
what it says in the
Okay,
footnote.
yeah, very good. Yeah, Yud Al. Yes, you're right. Yud Al on the bed over there. See, he's talking about 40 dapim ago. That's very impressive, Adam. Yes,
It's right here.
yeah, it's all right. But yes, we had it early in the Gemara about the Zav. Now, the Zav, he can't go up, but kiss Shalo. If you want, whoa, look who's here. Adam is here. Beautiful. He can't go out, but kiss Shalo. He can't go out with we welcome back Adam, a pouch that if he wants to catch this discharge, if the Zav wants to catch the discharge because he wants to see, did he have a discharge or not? So he would put some sort of pouch around that area, and then he would inspect it later on. So on Shabbat, now that pouch that he's putting there to catch that discharge, it's not clothing, right, David? And it's not warmth. So therefore, that would be forbidden for him to go ahead and go out to public property with that pouch. V'lo izim b'kis shebedadehem, and goats that they would tie to the udders a pouch. Either they would tie the pouch to catch the milk, right? So now the milk, if you catch the milk, so that's not part of the animal. The milk that comes out of the animal, you want to catch the milk. Or even if it's to protect the udder, that it shouldn't get scraped from the thorns, but there's a concern that this pouch would fall. And if it would fall, then you might come to carry it. Because really, if you put something on to protect the animal, that's not called that's like clothing, right? So there shouldn't be a problem if you put the pouch. You know, if you wear clothing to protect you from the rain, protect your body, right? Or clothing. But we're saying over here that there's a concern that this pouch might fall off, and you might come to carry it. V'lo para b'chasom shebafiyah. A cow cannot go out with a bit, not a bit, a muzzle. So a muzzle that prevents the animal from eating on other people's property. We mentioned yesterday about Abraham, right? Abraham animals, what do they have more tonight? A muzzle, because they didn't want to eat on other people's property. And but that's not clothing of the animal. That's not jewelry. What'd you say? It's not adorn. You hear that, Adam? Therefore, it can't. Well, it's not beautification, David. It's not clothing. It's not providing warmth. It can't go out into public property. It can't go out. Can't go out. Can't get on Shabbat for sure in public property. Right. Your animal can't. Whatever you can't carry, the animal can't carry. If your animal, if it's not serving to warm the animal or beautify the animal in a normal way, that beautifies the animal, it can't. It's called a loath. Right? No exceptions for Muslims. Now, v'lo siyachim, and it's young donkeys cannot go out b'traskalin shebafim l'reshut harabim. It says it can't go out with this basket in its mouth, and it only says it can't go out with its feeding basket, like the baby bottle, if it's going into public property. Now, in the Gemara's understanding we'll see how the Gemara is going to. This is the. So there's an argument. So some say you could. I mean, the question is, could you put the feeding basket? Now, the feeding basket. Could you put the feeding basket on the animal and let it stay in the courtyard? That's a discussion. That's two opinions in the Gemara. One says you can, and one says you can't get busy. You can't get busy to put this feeding basket on, even if it's going to go on just in the courtyard.
Morning.
You can't get busy with it. It's called busyness that's not necessary on Shabbat. And you could put the food, let it eat the food, let it bend down. You should go ahead and this comfort, this level of comfort that you should be busy on that you should be busy with the animal for that level of comfort.
But, Rabbi, it doesn't seem that much different than putting the saddle cloth to warm it up. Is being warm so much more,
Okay, very good. So we said, so the idea of warmth is something, it's a basic, the warmth is clothing, number one. And when it's clothing, it's preventing from the pain of it's in pain when it's cold. But when here it's not really in pain, you're just doing something, you're getting yourself busy to make it a little bit more comfortable, more comfortable and easier for the user-friendly So that maybe not, so those rabbis said that's not allowed on Shabbat. You can't be busy. It's not in it, right, exactly. It's like things that are not, the morning mark, there's that right article right there, the soft cover. No, but once it's not, but then it's not allowed, meaning there's certain things that are not in the spirit of Shabbat that becomes forbidden. Meaning there's something called like weekday type of 53A. Now we just turned the page to 53A4. Now there's certain things that are not in the spirit of Shabbat, that becomes forbidden, right? You can't go ahead and there are opinions that say you can't ride a bicycle, getting a little controversial here with the deal community, right? Got to be careful. Driving a bicycle on Shabbat, right? So you might have different rabbis that say the rabbis that say you shouldn't be driving a bicycle on Shabbat. They hold it's actually forbidden. It's not that they're just saying it's not to just say okay, it's not you shouldn't do it. It's not so much. There are rabbis that say that say it's really forbidden to do it. They really feel it's under the cloud. It's the more weekday type. But other rabbis will say no. Right? I presume the community has a little split on
the run.
Okay, so running is because we said we spoke about not making up a sweat.
Right.
We spoke about not making up a sweat and so on Shabbat. Now, so there are certain things that are not in the spirit of Shabbat. Okay, it's this discussion on it, but let's continue in the Gemara.
We could go on this for a while.
Me and Mark and his rabbi, we had a whole discussion.
Very strongly.
He holds it, but not everyone agrees with that, right?
And he's the most mahmir man of them. What?
Yes, Josh.
John.
His rabbi holds that way, but I think
And he's the most mahmir guy I've ever met in my life.
And with a cold shower.
With a cold shower after.
but not we said not everyone is agreeing with perhaps, right? Yeah, but again, exactly.
Start there.
That is true. I agree to that. I agree to that.
We all agree that we fast on Yom Kippur. That's about it.
And Tisha B'Av too, right? Okay. Now, the Gemara continues. And it says, "V'lo behima b'sandel b'ragleha." An animal cannot go out with a sandal that they make for its foot. And the purpose of the sandal, now the question is, what's the problem? The sandal. Good morning, Boker Tov. The sandal is made for the purpose of protecting the animal. It shouldn't get, with the rocks when it's walking. The problem is that this sandal is made in a way that it's it could fall off the feet of the animal. It's loose. They made a sandal made out of metal. And they're concerned that it might fall off the animal's foot. And then you know what? You don't want to get busy. You're afraid you're going to lose the sandal. You might come to carry it. And therefore, you cannot place this on the animal. And but horseshoe is not a problem because it's really stuck in, nailed in. It's not a problem. Okay, and by the way, that's also true about any type of clothing. The person wears type of clothing or let's say shoes.
You can't put the horseshoe on Shabbat.
But you're nailing it in most probably.
It could be on Shabbat.
It could right. If it's on, you could go out on Shabbat with it. It could go out on Shabbat. It's not called again a shoe, the horseshoe, or even the sandal. It's clothing of the animal. But the only issue is a side issue. You can have something that's clothing, but there could be a problem. We're going to learn about jewelry, ladies' jewelry on Shabbat. The Gemara said that a lady should not be going out with jewelry on Shabbat. Now we're going to have to, and this is the question nowadays, how do ladies go out with jewelry on Shabbat in a place where there's no eruv? What's the problem with a lot of jewelry? The Gemara says they might come to show it to their friend. Oh, look what I got. They take off and look at my necklace, and might come to cat and they walk with it. So that's an issue that we're going to see in the Gemara, and in modern times, the Shulchan Aruch already 500 years ago, they start asking the question. We see the ladies do go out on Shabbat, so what's going on? Are they doing something wrong or not? So that's a whole, how do you like that, Adam? Fascinating, right?
how did the Gemara say this? We see that it's very commonplace.
Oh, no, he's not asking on the Gemara, he's questioning, is the practice being done today correct, or the practice being done is wrong? You know, some might say that the Gemara is talking about, say it again? Right, we have to know why Jewish people, when the community has a custom, and usually the Jewish people is not going to be doing something against the Gemara, against the halacha. So how does it fit with halacha? So there's multiple answers to try to address why are women able to wear, or why are the women? Is it something that really they shouldn't be doing, but they're not going to listen to us? And is that type of is it that type of thing? You know, that might be it's one approach, but you know what? They're not, you know.
Or is it a thing that they don't really take it off?
Today it's not novel like in those days, and therefore Jews much more common. They wear it during the week. There are different answers to address this issue. It's an issue that's discussed in Shulchan Aruch. Has a lot of ink on it, as they say. Good morning, Jack. I have to thank Jack because many times we prepare the Gemara together. So I got to thank Jack. V'lu, the Gemara says, V'lu b'kamiyah. The animal cannot go out with the kamiyah. What's a kamiyah? We know kamiyah is like an amulet that has certain writings. There's a Gemara right there, Jack. If you want a Gemara, is the original. A kamiyah is a certain type of writings that they put. You know, sometimes I might put psukim or other things in this kamiyah, and even though it says Afal pishu mumcha, even though this kamiyah, now what's the purpose of this kamiyah? For health purposes, for refuah purposes, for healing purposes. And even though it has a mumcha, even though Rashi says mumcha, it already has a history that healed 3 people. This kamiyah was used for 3 people, and meaning you could say, now, so I shouldn't say, not 3 people, I'm sorry. Three times. So it sounds like 3 times. Maybe it helped 3 animals. So we're going to see the Gemara is going to discuss later on exactly more details about this kamiyah that we're talking about. And the Gemara is going to ask the question later on: what's the problem? If it helped the animal, it's for the animal itself, for the refuah of the animal. The Gemara is going to discuss what's the problem with this kamiyah. And this is more strict by an animal than a person, which would seem to indicate that a person can go out with such an amulet, and an animal cannot go out with such an amulet. And that's going to be tomorrow's discussion. You got to stay tuned for tomorrow. We'll get to it today. The Gemara is going to discuss this exactly what this means, whether it means to take literally or not. Now, so the Gemara continues, Avol yotzihu be'eged, but the animal could go out to public property with eged. Eged is, let's say, some sort of bandage on top of a wound. So since it's needed to protect the wound, then it's considered like clothing. It's not, the same way clothing protects your body from heat, from cold, or from whatever it is. That's considered, this Band-Aid, protecting the wound, and we're not afraid, and it's not a type of thing that it fall off. You're not going to come carry it, but because it's nothing. It's no big deal. You got to put another Band-Aid on, and people don't save it, and so therefore there's no problem. Now ubakashishin shal gabe shever, they put a splint. They're called pieces of wood, that are tied to the side of a limb that broke. People think that at the times, thousands of years ago, they weren't so knowledgeable. You look at that, Jack. They had splints. They made splints back then. Mordechai, what do you say to that? We're going back a couple of thousand years, and they're having the splints. And they could go out with a splint because the splint is there to protect, right? Charles, to protect the person. It's serving the person. It's like clothing in a certain sense, according to what we're saying. It's not considered, the Ritva says it needs it. It's needed for the animal. It's not considered a load. And also, these are wood. Wood is very inexpensive. These type of things. It's not, and therefore people, it's not like metal like we had earlier in the Gemara, the sin. And therefore, if it falls off, a person's not going to come carry it. So therefore, and also, they used to tie it very tightly. Because you want it to be against the bone to make sure that the bone doesn't move, to protect it. So therefore, there's no problem on Shabbat to go out with it. Ubishilya hamududelet. If some of the placenta that there's the fetus is in the animal is hanging, let's say some of it went out of the animal, it's still considered in the animal, part of the animal, and therefore it's not considered carrying. And therefore,
Comes out.
and he says you also don't have to be concerned that maybe you're going to come carrying, says Rabbim, because you want it to come out. It's good for the animal, and you don't want, and therefore it's good that this gets removed from the animal, and therefore you're not going to come, no concern, you're going to carry anything. Upokikin lo zug shebetzavara. If the animal has a bell in its neck, and the bell in its neck, when an animal walks with the bell, it's going to make noise. That's not allowed on Shabbat to have something like a musical instrument making noises on Shabbat. So you could go ahead and put a piece of cotton or piece of wool inside the bell in order that it should not make the noise on Shabbat. But it's only allowed to go into the courtyard. But you can't take this animal with this bell on, even if you stuff the bell. You can't take it out into public property because it looks like you're selling it. They used to go ahead, they would dress up the animal, like today in the garment industry, they dress up.
Do we answer if you're allowed to put the back?
But right now, we're getting to that right now. But it says you could go ahead and put
In the courtyard.
Right. So it sounds like the basket can't go into public property, but when the courtyard, that's what the Gemara is going to imply. The courtyard will be allowed. That's what the Gemara is going to say in a second. But what's it again? We're now on 53A4, and the first column, and the last thing we just said is you could go ahead and stuff up the bell. But even when it's stuffed up and it's not making sounds, you can't walk it out into public property because it looks like you're going to the market. It looks like you're dressing it up to get ready to sell, and that's like marit ayin. That's how some. Obviously you have to say that the bells are considered adornment and jewelry of the animal, right? But therefore the issue is not carrying. Morning, Sally. The issue is not carrying. What's the issue? The issue is of marit ayin. It looks like you're going to the market, right? But it looks nice. It looks nice, and it's a normal way of dressing up the animal. So that's like any jewelry that's common the animal could wear. Now here, Mark, here we get to your point. So this is what the Gemara wanted. Right. This is the moment we've been waiting for. We quoted this whole Braita just to get to this Katani Miha. At the end of the day, we learned V'lo Sayachin, the young donkeys cannot go out B'traskalim Shebefiyim L'shut Rabim. They can't go out in the public property. But in private property, because Shapidami, they're allowed to. So this is a question on the opinion that says that you can't hang a feeding basket to the animal, even for the courtyard on Shabbat, because you might come to because you're busying yourself a type of busyness that's not necessary in Shabbat. When here we see, good morning, Nathan, welcome back. When we see that you could go ahead, and the only problem is going to public property. But say it again.
What about why we specify public?
Right.
Say not that.
Right, exactly. So it seems like, but a private, you could. Now, the Tosfos is gonna have,
The mark, not allowed to feed basket on here, because you're not allowed to put a feed basket on an animal in public property. So why does it say in public
Right.
property? The only reason it would ever say that is because in private, you're allowed.
Right.
but Tosfos, now look at the bottom Tosfot. Some Tosfos ask, now, you know what, we'll wait for the Tosfos in a second, because we have to do one more line in the Gemara. We say, just to bring Nathan up to date, the discussion here in the Gemara is, are we allowed to go ahead and hang a feeding basket with food on an animal on Shabbat for the animal to go out in the courtyard, not to go onto public property with that feeding basket. That feeding basket, let's say you won't be able to go on a public property with it. But to go out in private property into the courtyard, is there a problem? Can I just tie a feeding basket? Is that called excessive effort on Shabbat? That's not necessary for the animal. Because the animal can just bend down and eat from, put it on the floor. Put the food on the floor and let the animal bend down and eat from it. To get yourself busy, busy with the animal where it's not necessary, is that called effort, excessive effort that's not necessary or not? So we have a dispute in the Gemara, two different opinions. And the Gemara is not questioning one of those opinions, because here we see that it says he can't go in the court, in the public property. It says the animal, the donkey, can't go out with this basket, which implies in private it could. But you told me that those opinions say you can't even hang it on even in private. But Tosfos asks an obvious question. When it says you can't go out, it says you can't go out into public property, but in private you can. Maybe it's talking about something, morning, Gary, that it was you hung it up before Shabbat. Maybe you tied it before Shabbat. Maybe this basket that we say that you can't go out on Shabbat to public property, but it could go in the courtyard. That's talking about a basket that you already put on before Shabbat. Now can you go out into the courtyard? But to say that you're allowed to go ahead and actually, where does it say in the Bright you can actually hang it on the animal? It doesn't say you can hang on the animal on Shabbat itself. It says on Shabbat itself you can walk with it in the courtyard. That is Tosfos this question. Okay, but let's continue in the Gemara. The Gemara says, K'tanimiyat. Now, my love, bigdolim. Most probably, we're talking about these animals, the siyachim, that are grown young horses that are grown, that their neck is long, and they're able to bend down, David, without any real difficulty. It's not a real pain for them to really bend down. My love, bigdolim umishum ta'anuk. It's really they're nice sizes. They're large, but it's just user friendly, makes it easy. There's no pain for them to bend down, and yet we see you could still go ahead and put it on them. The Gemara says, no proof. You know what type of horses we're talking about? Right.
Yeah.
Right. They call these, the colts, right? Are we talking about colts that are grown or colts that are not grown? So that's what the Gemara says. We're talking about tanim. We're talking about tanim that their necks are very narrow and they have pain to bend down onto the ground and to eat. Umishum tsar, and it's because of tsar, meaning the allowance that the Gemara understood you can actually place it on the animal on the Shabbat. This feeding basket is no proof. It's this tsar. It's pain. Just like you can go ahead and get busy. You can get busy on Shabbat and throw that blanket, that saddlecloth on the donkey on the Shabbat in the courtyard because it's for the animal's suffering. And the Gemara says this also, it seems to imply this way. Diktani, now we're turning the page. Dumya de Kamiya, right? It's listed in the Braita with the amulet. What's the amulet? The animal is sick for sick. We're hanging the amulet on the animal not because of a good luck charm. We're hanging the animal amulet because it already healed. It's for healing purposes. There's some sort of difficult, some sort of pain in the animal. Okay. Amama, now we get to Mark's point. Lova Kamiya, back the Gemara said you can't use the amulet for the animal, even if the amulet has experience and was successful, has a track record. So the Gemara says, Vanantanan, but we have a Mishnah later on, Velova Kamiya she'ena mumcha. We have later on the only thing that you can't use, a person can't go out with Shabbat, it says about a person. A human being can't go out in Shabbat with an amulet does not have a track record. A track record means 3 times. A chazakah. If it did not heal a person 3 times, so it seems to indicate only if it does not have a track record. But if it's an expert amulet, shapidami. If it helped, you could go out with such an amulet. So why is the animal different than a man? Meaning. We're now on 53 B1. So the Gemara, you got it? So that's what the Gemara is saying. But a human being, we say the only time amulet, it can't go out. Now it seems that the amulet is serving the person. Well, it's not called carrying. Say it again. So it's also, if it's good for the person, it should be good for the animal. If you have an amulet that has a track record, you got it or doesn't have it?
There is no people. Go ahead.
Wow.
It goes from 4 to 2.
I don't know, it's right here.
Where? Oh, this side.
It's an unusual type. It's not the normal type of Gemara. No, it's a traveler's edition. Right, it has it.
Right, okay, go.
Why is a human being different than if a human being can go out with an amulet that's worked 3 times? Why can an animal? So the Gemara says, you're right. The Gemara says, Hachinami. When the Braita says the animal can't go out with an amulet, we're talking about an amulet that's not an extra, has no track record. But if it has a track record, it could go out. The Gemara says, what do you mean? The Braita says even if it has a track record. The Gemara says, what do you mean? Hatnan, Hachinami. The Gemara says, the only amulet the animal can't go out with, because if it's protecting the animal, then it's like just like your clothing protects you, the amulet protects you. It's part of you, right? That's how you have to. It's not called carrying.
Why is there a distinction between humans?
But that's what the Gemara says. You're right. There is no distinction. The same way a human being can go an amulet that has a track record, so to an animal. But the Gemara shoots back.
The animal can go out with a proven amulet. Can a human not go out with a proven amulet?
So now the Gemara is saying different than what we said until now. So no, an animal could go out with a proven amulet. So the Gemara shoots back. What do you mean? But we learned in the Braita that an animal can't go out with a proven, right? That's the Gemara's question. It's contradiction. We said even if it's proven. So the Gemara says adam. You know what it means? If an amulet is proven for the animal, it could go out with it. But an amulet that helps a person, you cannot, that has a track record to help 3 sick people, or people can it help 3 times. You can't use that amulet for an animal. Got it, David? A person's amulet can't be used for an animal, but an animal's amulet. So it goes to get the question: what do you mean? If it has a healing record for a person, shouldn't it definitely be used? If it can heal a person, it can heal an animal. So the Gemara says it's not a good call. Like why? Because a person has a malach. Person has a mazal, and malach. The Gemara says he has a melut yisheir. The Gemara says, "Odisi mazala." You have a mazal. You have a malach that's appointed on you to protect you, to talk on your behalf. The animal does not have that malach, so therefore, even if it helped the animal, he had that chance. It helped the animal it helped the human being 3 times. That does not give any track record for a human being, and therefore you can't use it. For an animal, that would help the person can't help the animal. Yes.
You don't have. The idea is that.
And if you don't mind, I want to talk to you about this question because I don't want people to be late for davening. So we're a little overtime. I'm going to talk to you right now about your question. Anybody who prayed already, you could stay, you could stay for Adam's question. Aaron, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Rabbi Friedman. Thank you.
Yeah.